After using Canon cameras for about 40 years, Canon film cameras, DSLRs and mirrorless, I just picked this up. It's a GoPro Hero 9. And because of the complete lack of information you get when you buy a Hero 9, I've been devouring YouTube videos, and there are some really fantastic videos on YouTube about how to use these things. And I can't better that, but it seems that the people who are doing videos about the Hero 9 have been using GoPros for years, and they can tell you about all the differences between this one and the previous models. And they're so familiar with using it, they just sort of fly through because they are familiar, and they maybe sort of skip things that are not obvious to new users. And I think what I can do is just to give you the perspective of a new user. Yes, I am a GoPro virgin. So why did I buy a GoPro 9 after all these years of using Canon cameras? And it really has to do with my other YouTube channel. And it started off just doing fairly static tutorials about the Thai language. But then it moved on to doing sort of walkabout videos. And although the camera I was using, which is a Canon mirrorless, Canon say it has 5-axis stabilization, and I was using an image stabilized lens, the footage was very, very shaky. And a few people commented on it. And my first thought was that I needed to get a gimbal. But it was a sort of funny thing that I knew I needed to get a gimbal, but my gut feeling kept telling me not to buy a gimbal. And my experience in life is that if there's a conflict between what my brain says and what my gut feeling says, always go with my gut feeling, because that's the one that's going to be right. So a gimbal is something else to carry around, it's something else to go wrong, it's something else to charge batteries. If I go to full frame mirrorless in the future, I'll need to buy a bigger gimbal. And these things are heavy. You know, if you've got a camera that's and a lens that's almost 1 kilogram, and then you buy a gimbal that's 1.5 kilograms, that's like 2.5 kilograms you're carrying around. And that's going to get really old after a few hours. And this thing, I think the camera is about 160 grams. The handle is very light, and it's just no effort at all. And the Canon camera is really a still camera that can do video. So when you do video, it's a bit of a compromise. And the GoPro is a camera that's designed for video. So instead of buying accessories to try to make my videos better using my mirrorless camera, like gimbals and external microphones and things, I thought the best bet is just to sort of start afresh and just go out and buy the right equipment for the job, which is a GoPro. Because the GoPro is basically a vlogging camera, I assumed that I could just take it out of the box, go off vlogging, and everything would be perfect. But that wasn't the case. The audio was pretty horrible, and the video wasn't great, and there were other problems which I'll go through in a minute. But after about a week of getting familiar with the camera, getting the right settings, and also buying the right accessories, I'm now at the stage where I'm quite happy with the performance, and that certainly wasn't the case when I first took it out of the box. So that's what I'll be going through in this video. The first problem for me as a virgin GoPro user is that when I turned the camera on for the first time, and without a user manual, I just didn't know how to do anything. When I buy a new camera, there's normally a menu button or a settings button, and you can press that, and then you can see all the options and select what you want. With the GoPro, there's nothing, and that's where the YouTube videos came in really useful. So you need to know which way to swipe and how to swipe. And the second problem is this touchscreen. It's one of the worst touchscreens I've ever used. And that quite surprised me, because GoPro have been using touchscreens ever since the first model, and now we're into the 9th iteration, and by now it should be really fantastic. But I've had lots of problems. And it's quite intermittent, so I'm not sure if it's going to play up now, or whether, because I'm doing this video, it will perform perfectly. But let's just give it a try. So we'll go down into the preferences, and sometimes when I press it I don't get any response. Okay, I did then. And at other times, when I just want to scroll up or down, it will actually go into a setting that I don't want. Okay, so now I just want to scroll down, and it's gone into default preset. And I've read other complaints about this, and some people say that if you touch it with one hand, it performs better, or if you sort of hold your finger down before you swipe, it performs better. But I've had lots and lots of problems, and I sort of inadvertently change settings I don't want to change. So this touchscreen really isn't good. And I read that a previous firmware update was supposed to have fixed the problem, but I'm on the latest firmware, which is 1.52, and I've still got the problem. So I don't know how it stands now, whether GoPro are going to release a new fix. But anyway, the touchscreen is definitely not good. Next problem, and maybe this is just me, is that if I've got it in video mode, when I turn it off, it's a long press, and then turn it back on again, it comes back in time warp mode, and I want it to come back in the same mode as when I turned it off. So I'm not sure whether it's me doing something wrong or whether that's another problem with the camera. When I did my first test, both the video and audio weren't good, particularly the audio. And on this thing, there's nowhere to plug an external microphone. It's just a USB socket. So you can buy an adapter, and the adapter costs money. That's a USB-C to microphone adapter. But to plug it in, you need to open the door, which is not good. So to get around that, you can either buy a third-party door that's got a hole in it, and that costs about $10. GoPro do an accessory, which is a plug-through door. So it's a door that has a USB plug inside and a USB socket outside, so you can close the door and put an accessory in. I think either of those options aren't really desirable. And the best option, which means buying another accessory, is this thing. This is called the media mod. So the GoPro slides in here. There's a USB plug that plugs in the socket, and then once the camera's in the media mod, then you get 3 more sockets. You get a microphone input, a USB-C, so you can actually charge the battery without opening the door, and a micro HDMI, and there's also microphones on the back and the front, and you can change it to back or front, or you can use the internal microphone. And the microphones on this thing seem to be very tinny. There's very little bass, and it's not really a sound I liked. So what I've been doing is plugging my wireless lavalier mic into the microphone socket, and that actually gives me quite good audio now. However, that comes at a price, and the cost of the media mod is around $80. So once you've bought the basic camera, you do need to buy extra accessories to get a decent level of performance. The other thing was video quality, and I found some YouTube videos that really helped me with this one. So if you go into the options, again, this touchscreen isn't working well for me. Okay, if you go into the options for video, go into the edit section. I've got it on hyper smooth boost, and the built-in image stabilization was the main reason for me buying this camera, to avoid buying a gimbal. And go down to Pro Tune. I think the standard setting for bitrate is low, and it's better to turn that on high so you get better quality. The GoPro tends to overexpose, so there was a suggestion to turn down the EV compensation, which I've done to minus 0.5. I might need to turn that down a bit more. Also, white balance, I've turned that off of auto onto like 5500 for a sunny day. I live in Thailand and it normally is sunny. Sharpness, if it's on high, it looks a bit false, so I sort of, turn that down. Colour, another recommendation was to turn off the GoPro colour, which is a bit artificial, and just go for a flat colour. And wind, there's an auto setting for wind which will cut down wind noise, but it does something to the audio file. It doesn't make it sound very natural, so I've just turned that off. And using these settings and using my external microphone with the media mod has now given me the results that I want. Once I'd got my audio and video set up, that wasn't the last of my problems. My video editing software is quite long in the tooth now. I do need to upgrade it, but I'm not quite ready yet. And it will only handle H.264, not H.265. And depending on the video setting, the resolution and the frame rate, the GoPro will only give you H.264 for certain settings, and there aren't actually too many. So my first setting, I can't quite remember what it was probably how the camera came out of the box, gave me H.265. So when I did a video, I couldn't actually use it. So I had to change around with the settings to get H.264. And most of the settings will give you H.265. There are only 4 settings that will give you H.264. So if you've got all the latest software, editing software, you shouldn't have a problem. If you're an old dinosaur like myself and can only handle H.264, you need to be a little bit careful. So to conclude, it's not perfect. It's certainly not perfect out of the box. There's quite a steep learning curve, but once you're familiar with it and you've got the right settings and you've bought the right accessories, it does a really good job. And for the type of walk around vlogging videos I've been doing, it's certainly far better than taking a mirrorless camera and a gimbal. So now I'm quite pleased. Now with regard to upgrading to a GoPro 9 from a previous version, I can't really tell you, I've got no experience. This is my first one. But in many respects, GoPro reminds me of Apple. They make very good products, but they're quite proprietary. And like with an iPhone, if you buy an iPhone and buy accessories for it, and Apple will release a new one with a different type of connector, then you can't use all of your old accessories. With the GoPro, apparently people have been complaining about short battery life for a long time. So with the 9, they've put in a bigger battery, which will give you 30% more usage. But because of that, the body is bigger as well, so the accessories won't fit. So if you have, for example, a media mod for a GoPro 8, it won't fit your GoPro 9. And personally, I won't be very happy about that, but it's up to you. If you think the features on the 9 are worth it to buy all new accessories, it's just a personal choice. But overall, yeah, I'm now very, very happy with it. So if you have any questions, comments, suggestions or other feedback, please leave them below. And thank you for watching.